Okay, everybody. So Seth asked me today if I would facilitate the call, and I'm just so excited to help. I like listening to all of you way more than facilitating. So I'm going to be honest with you, but I'm always here to help. So he said I get to choose a topic too, which that was an interesting chain of events. So I'm going to choose a topic that might cause a little bit of a problem. I'm hoping it won't, but I've heard that we can edit these calls, so hopefully that's the case. So I actually had an interesting phone call. I actually called Seth the other day and just kind of talked to him about some of my frustrations and worries. And one of the things that I said was, I don't know why I live with a lot of feelings of guilt when it comes to doTERRA, right? So it's called mom guilt, and even when you're not doing doTERRA, you still get it. So, I have all these classes coming up. I have a team that's doing well, but I always feel like I'm not doing enough for doTERRA, and I always feel like I'm not doing enough at home, and it's just this constant guilt cycle. Now, before doTERRA, I had it too. It's not like, it's just guilt sometimes as a parent that I think we have. So I've really been thinking about this a lot. And one of the things, so this is what's spurring this call. So this is what I want to talk about. Finding joy in doTERRA. And before all of you hop off the call, please don't do that. It might sound corny. But what I want to do is I actually want to focus on finding joy in two areas of doTERRA. And this is kind of a pump you up right before the game sort of a call, because it's the new year and this is when we're supposed to be going crazy. Christmas is over. We don't have summer coming. People are restless. They're like ready to get out because it's wintertime, unless, some of you may be in a different part of the world where it's actually summer. But I want us to be excited. And I think the focus is not that there's anything wrong with doTERRA and not that there's anything wrong with us. It's that we need to start being more grateful. So the two things I want to focus on, in the first half, we're going to focus on finding joy in using doTERRA's products and in introducing those to our family and to our own health, okay? So that's why I said this could be a tricky call. And I'll probably never be asked to do this again because I just chose this topic, and that's fine with me. And then the second half of the call, I want us to talk about finding joy in sharing and building, especially building a business. And so I want everybody right now to be thinking about what first grew you to doTERRA, and most likely it was the product, so that's going to be our first focus. I'm going to share my story a little bit with you and how I have in the past and then now finding joy in doTERRA. And if any of you would like to raise your hand to also share how you find joy in doTERRA's products, please do so. So I was born without a hip socket and did not know it until I was 12 years old, and I was going in for a sports physical. And just so all of you know, sports was the thing that made me happy. And I would go out to the playground, and I would challenge like 2 or 3 people to a basketball game, and I would just love it. I'm not joking. I did it all the time. I'd be like, can I play all 3 of you in basketball? And I'd win. I mean, I love sports. So I go in for my sports physical for 7th grade, right? This is the time when I was growing up, I didn't do a lot of sports. I know people do now, but back in my day, I just did sports like when it started to be available in the school setting, which is 7th grade. So I go for my sports physical, and the doctor says, there's something wrong with you, and I'm not going to sign the slip that says you get to play volleyball. That's the first sport of the year where I grew up. And I remember just crying and thinking the thing I love most of all was sports, and I don't get to play. And so after all these different x-rays and different things, they figured out that I was born without a hip socket and that one of my discs was slipping really drastically. And they actually said, but you can play sports, go for it. Before and after, it's totally fine. So I played sports, and I love sports. And I did so in a lot of pain, especially basketball, which was my favorite sport, was in the winter. And so I experienced quite a bit of pain. But I just loved it. I just pushed through that pain. And when I was having a good time, I didn't think anything of it. So then go to college, and I decided, you know what? I love sports. I'm going to play intramurals, but I think my focus is going to turn to performing because I really love to do performing. And in particular, I wanted to do dance because it wasn't something I was great at, and I knew that in order to be a good performer, I would need to learn how to dance. And so I decided to do a minor in dance. And so I did that, and the whole time was quite a bit of pain, but I just pushed on through it. So then I get married, and I have 5 kids, and at that point, my life was, in my eyes, was over physically. I would wake up in the morning, I would try to get my day going because I did homeschool and I wasn't going to let that slack, so I pushed myself through the afternoon. Then by the time it was afternoon, I'd sit on the couch, and I'd be in pain from head to toe, and I would think, I have 5 children, and I can't even enjoy them, and I can't be physical. And I remember my husband, whose mother spent quite a few years in a wheelchair, I remember him saying at one point, well, we might have to have a wheelchair in our home. And just feeling like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? And then the thing that bothered me the most was my feet, actually. And I think it's from all the different surgeries and the nerves being cut, but I developed real pain in my feet. And so I would, like, my feet would just ache, and I would hurt from head to toe, and my feet would burn, and they'd burn all night, so I couldn't sleep well. And I was just in a really bad place. And this all led to me also just feeling horrible. I had anxious feelings a lot. I just mentally and emotionally was not living the way I wanted to. And here comes Seth and Heidi. So they call me up and they say, hey, we're going to come to Washington, but we're only coming for business. So if you want to host a class, then why don't you, then we'll come and see you. And so just so you know, I really like Seth and Heidi, like love them a lot, right? They're my brother and sister. And so, but I was in such a bad place. I said, no way, I'm not going to do that. Like, I cannot even wrap my mind around calling people and inviting them to a class. Well, through the hand of divine providence, that night, I realized after some heartfelt prayers that they actually held the answer for me for my health. And so I called them up the next morning and said, guess what happened last night? I received an answer to prayer, and I'm supposed to find out about doTERRA. So they came to my house. I invited a few friends, and that, and it's ancient history. I started using the supplements. I started using Aroma Touch, a massage down my leg and feet to help with that feet pain. And I got my life back. It was the most amazing thing. And today I went and exercised for an hour, and I wasn't even tired at the end. And I feel so good. And even though, the last day of the month, for all of you who know, like, you're up till 11:30 at night, I was up at 5, and I went out and exercised, and I had a great time. So that is why I find joy in doTERRA. Now I have 6 kiddos and a husband who love the products, who are super conscious of their health, who are super conscious about how they eat, who have so many blessings because of the products that doTERRA gives. If I had never touched the business side, I would be thanking my stars every day for the incredible blessing of doTERRA. Now, I touched the business side because I didn't feel like I could afford doTERRA, and I also felt an incredible obligation to bless others' lives. So I would like some hands raised to hear other people's story of how they find joy in doTERRA with the products. And I don't see any, so I might start calling on people. Wouldn't that be fun? Better raise your hand, somebody. Okay, I'm going to start calling on people. Oh, wait, no, Virginia. Raise your hand. Go, Virginia. We can always count on you. Okay, I'm unmuting you now, Virginia. Okay, Virginia, tell me about how you find joy in using doTERRA's products.
I watch Amish families particularly, who have health needs, and they find using the doTERRA oils help them to take care of the minor things so it doesn't become major. And some of them are miracles, but it's not compliant for beings for me to even talk about it. But they are so grateful to have tools to be able to do it themselves. And
I love it.
It just makes all the difference in the world for them. And turn on a diffuser. And my brand new Amish Silver, he's the one that worked with someone to create the device so that an Amishman who has no electricity in their home, they connect it onto this little device. It looks like at the bottom of a power tool that you use the power tool and then you set it on the place for it to recharge. It looks something like that. Anyway, he created that.
Oh, cool.
Everybody buys that and buys diffusers and has it in their home, and they're just so thankful.
Oh, I love it. That is the greatest. Thank you for sharing that. I have a number here with the ending. It's a 480, and the end is 2565. And what's your name? And I'll put you in the system for next time. Hi.
And this is Gigi.
Awesome. Why don't you go ahead and share how you find joy in doTERRA using their product?
I actually really like this topic because a lot of people, when they ask me why I use doTERRA, I literally tell them it's the best way to change the quality of your life, to live happier. If you're dealing with aches and pains and things like that, the oils will definitely help you, benefit you in the quality of your life. And for me, it was when I was introduced to doTERRA, I had been suffering with very chronic head tension that would actually paralyze half of my body since I was 11. And when I did not have that pain in my head, I would still have a lot of pressure and nausea, throughout the day, and that was every day. I was used to living that way. And so when I was introduced to doTERRA, I actually cried the first time I used the oils because not only did it take away the pain, it removed everything that I just thought I was going to live with the rest of my life, the tension and the nausea and everything. And so that's how I found joy immediately, and to me, I actually told my husband, I was like, if the oils can do this for me, like I can only imagine switching my cleaning products, my healthcare, my beauty products to doTERRA, and that's what I did. And I mean, it's helped me, it's helped my husband with so many issues. So that's how I find joy with doTERRA.
Oh my goodness, that is incredibly awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. You brought a tear to my eye. That is so you dealt with it from the time you were 11, and then and then finally at what age did you see that?
My anniversary was 2 days ago for 2 years, so I've been not free of the pain, but free of the supplements I was taking to help with that. I have been free of that stuff for 2 years. So.
Wow, cool. Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, now we have Jessica. I'm going to unmute your line. I'd love to hear from you.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Hi. Awesome. Thanks for letting me share. So I think that this is an amazing topic as well because I think when we tap into our joy and feel that joy, then we're attracting more people that are looking for that joy. And so I think this is a super huge thing to focus on. But I find a ton of joy in using pretty much all the oils, but where I find a lot of joy is when, you know, I share an oil with somebody and then they become a wellness advocate, and then going along our journey together, they'll just like teach me something that I didn't know about one of the products. And I'm like, wait, what? And then I get so proud and I just fill up with joy because I just see what it's doing to them, and just watching my team grow and how, you know, just the whole process of everything. I know what I'm going through, but then when the team starts going through that growth and they start tapping into their joy after finding, you know, what the oils can do for them and how their light starts shining even more when they start sharing with other people, that's one of my favorite parts.
Oh, I love it. That's amazing. That is incredible. There is something about having someone you've introduced all of a sudden teach you something and realizing that they've gotten as excited as you have.
Yeah, my team amazes me. They show me so many different things. I'm like, wait, where did you see that? Why do you know more than me? And I get a little embarrassed sometimes because I'm like, I should know more than you. But then I'm like, how awesome is it that it's spreading so much that they can teach me too, you know? So I think it's incredible, and it brings me great joy.
Awesome. Thank you. For anyone who may have jumped on recently, we're talking about getting rid of the guilt and just finding joy in our doTERRA journey. And right now we're talking about products and how they're incredible. So the next person that raised their hand was Courtney Moses. Courtney.
Hey. So I was sitting here thinking about this, and I have a few thoughts. I was in Texas last week and sitting down with a few people and that are not enrolled, and we're asking about the products and the business with doTERRA. And one of them looked at me and she said, okay, all salesmen aside, does the product really work? And I'm like, yeah, let me tell you why I started. And I started telling her some of the experiences that me and my children have had over the years using the essential oils. And it's just one of those things that I was really grateful for that moment, because it reminded me of that joy. And I think sometimes we get so used to having experiences and results with the oils that we almost don't find the joy in it. Because it's like, oh yeah, you know, headache's gone again, or strep throat's gone again, or whatever. You know what I mean? But in that moment, when I'm able to talk to someone about it and share those experiences with them, I kind of just sat back afterwards and I was like, wow, you know, we truly have been blessed in so many ways with the products. But what I also realized, too, at that moment is that I wouldn't have had all these incredible experiences with the oils had I not done the business. Because the business allows me the opportunity to buy the products to have the results that I'm having in my home, you know? And so it kind of, I gained this great respect for both sides of it. You know what I mean? That you can't just simply use the products at a basic level to get the type of results that people are truly wanting in their life, you know? Because I was using doTERRA, you know, for about 2 years before I actually started doing the business. And I was getting minimal, you know, results in my health for myself and my children. And it wasn't until I started doing the business that now I can tell you lots of experiences we've had with the oils. But prior to doing the business, I'm sitting here thinking about it, and I'm like, you know, there really wasn't much of a difference. Like, we weren't using them enough because we couldn't afford to. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I think the joy comes
understand.
from being able to use the products at the level I am to actually get the results that we're wanting in our home. I hope that makes sense.
It totally makes sense, because that was me too. I wanted those supplements, you know. I think this might have been your case too, Courtney. I used a tax return to buy the kit, you know, to start.
I did.
And then I was like, how in the world am I going to afford this in the future? And then you just start to run as hard as you can, and you get those products for free. And guess what? You just keep doing the same thing you did to get the products for free, and you start building the business and making income. But you're right. I mean, when I look at my life, I look at, you know, I'm on the supplements. My husband's on the supplements. My son's on the supplements. My daughter's on the supplements. My other kids are on the kids supplements. Even my baby, I crunch up a A to Z chewable, and I give him, he opens his mouth, and I pour in the IQ Mega, all of our beauty products, all of our cleaning products. You know, like all of these things, for the most part, those would not, I mean, the LRP points are awesome, and you can do a lot, but you couldn't do what I'm doing by any means.
Right. Well, and here's the thing about it too. Like my whole family's on the products too. I mean, like the supplements, all of that, right? And I don't realize sometimes how healthy we are until I start looking at everyone else, right? And like I'll text some friends and want to go do something. Like, well, I can't, go. So and so is sick, or we get notes from the school. Your son was exposed to strep throat today, and you start realizing all the sickness around you. And then I'm like, oh yeah, we're good. We really are healthy in comparison. You know what I mean? But I think sometimes that's why it's hard to find that joy, because you're just going about a healthy life and not even realizing sometimes, how much worse it could be.
I had kind of an interesting experience. I actually stopped taking the supplements for 2 weeks during Christmas break. Like I had used up a box and I was just being lazy and I didn't want to really look around trying to find, it was ridiculous. And I tell you, it's like after those 2 weeks, I was begging do not miss this. And my kids would even be like, Mom, you didn't miss it because it was affecting me. And I was like, and it actually gave me just this incredible appreciation for the products. And I realized, wow, like this really affects me dramatically when I don't use them. And so maybe that's part of the reason why I felt like I should do this topic. Okay, now we have Jenny. I'm going to lower your hand and then unmute you, and I'd love to hear how you find joy in our product, Jenny.
Hi there, how are you?
Good. How about you?
Good. I'm great, thanks. I think that to share a little bit about, the joy that I have with the products from others before my personal, because, that's our goat things. We got to talk about other people before ourselves. Really goes along with what Courtney was talking about, just the joy of getting that text or that email or that phone call when that person you've introduced oils to has had success, and that they really want to share it with you, and almost like they're convincing you and letting you know that they really work, as if we didn't know. And I think that really just is always a driving force for me, especially in the business part. There's not a month that goes by that somebody's life hasn't been changed drastically by the oils or the supplements. So that's really a big part. But I think for my personal joy in our home with the oils has been that transformation of finding something that finally is in alignment with the way I wanted to raise my family. I had 2 home births, with Chrissy Fiker being my midwife. 2 of my 3 births were home, and was really at that pinnacle point where I'm trying to figure out how I can address things with my babies and for myself, for the cleaning. And I'd get on the internet and I'd research, clean products, this, clean this, and I would get so overwhelmed by the amount of information that was out there, so much that I would just go right back to what I was doing. Go get the Tylenol from CVS and keep getting the same, 7th generation cleaning products, which are quality products as well. But when doTERRA came into my life, I really had so many tools to be able to address everything that happened in my home. And I knew I was safe and clean products, and that became just such a joyful. It's till this day. It's been 5 years, and my kids now. I've got a 10-year-old son who comes to me. His tooth came out the other day, and it was bleeding. He's like, "Don't you have that oil? What is that one? That bleeding oil?" I'm like, "Hello, Christmas." He's like, "Yeah, go get it." So to see the change and that my children are being raised with an alternative way to address their health in a natural, pure way is beyond joyful. So that's my share for today.
Awesome. Thank you, Jenny, so much. I love it. Okay. So I'm a little biased. So I'm going to go to my brother, Seth, who raised his hand, and ask you, Seth, how you find joy. By the way, it was his birthday yesterday. Happy birthday.
Thanks, Catherine. I was actually going to just say that I remember teaching the class that you invited some friends to, and I remember explaining the benefits of the lifelong vitality, and in particular, the impact it has on pain. And I remember the look on your face, and after the class, you said, I'm really excited about the lifelong vitality. And then I remember, what was it, about 2 weeks after that, you called me up. You're like, Steph, I am pain-free for the first time in my life. And that was a pretty amazing experience for me. Another experience, I kind of wanted to tell the story a bit with you. But Emily, when she was in, so I was there in Yakima with you, and you said something like, hey, can you come and see a friend of mine? Maybe you can help her. And we went over to her house, and I think her situation was she had like 3 kids, and she was a homeschool mom before, but I don't know if she was homeschooling then, because when I met her, she was in a wheelchair, and kind of mentally out of it as well, because she was on so many opioid painkillers that she was
8 narcotics.
She was on 8 different opioids that were causing, basically, she was loopy, basically, and
right.
And I mean, I just remember going. I don't know if you remember this, but I remember just leaving her house, just feeling almost hopeless. Like, how in the world can we help her?
Oh yeah, I remember this. So, I mean, so completely clearly, and I remember you saying, whoever gave her that amount of painkiller, I'd like to punch them in the face. I remember that. Probably shouldn't. I'm glad we can't have the edit button, but I remember you saying because you knew more about it than I did. And you said, Jacqueline, to give you an idea of how much she's taking, if you were to take that today, you would die. And because of the amount, it was like 28 oxycodone alone. That was just one of the 8. And
yeah, yes.
So everyone,
terrible.
before you freak out, though, she actually, what we actually ended up doing is I called someone in her upline, because she was quite a few down from me, and I said, I knew she knew the AromaTouch technique, and I said, hey, I really feel like, and this was, well, what had happened is that Emily had called me in the hospital, and she was in severe pain, and her doctor had actually told her that he was going to put her on another medication, and she said, where am I in 5 years? Where does this lead me? And he said, well, in 5 years, you'll be addicted to everything, and the effects of everything will have been worn off. And he said, and at that point, most people kill themselves or they live in severe pain. And so she calls me and tells me this, and I can remember walking out of the kitchen, and this is exactly what happened when I had been in such severe pain. I looked up at the ceiling, and this time, instead of asking, what am I going to do, I said, what do you do? I was like, how in the world can you help this person? And the AromaTouch technique just came into my mind like that. And I remembered the story of this kid that they had shared at convention, where he'd been paralyzed from the neck down. And right after the accident, they actually went in and started doing the AromaTouch on him. And the next day, he started complaining of pain in his hip. And that came into my mind, and I thought, okay, the AromaTouch technique. So I called Trina, and I was like, Trina, this person's in your downline. You don't know her, and Trina, just to give you an idea, she's a single mom at this point, and she's going to college full time. And I was like, I know you're so busy, but I didn't live in the same town as Emily. And I was like, is there any way that you could please do the AromaTouch technique on her, like a couple times a week? And she said, Jacqueline, I'm going to do it every day. And that was just huge. And then another person, Trina's enroller, Michelle, ended up hearing from Trina, and Michelle said, I'm going to do it every day. And so for 2 weeks, they would come morning and night, and one of them would do it in the morning, and one of them would do it in the night. And then they started doing it once a day. At that point, her caretaker, who was her father, started doing it, and it was amazing. And the supplements were huge. She said the Lifelong Vitality was just huge. And it got to the point where she could walk again. She could walk before, but with severe pain, she'd faint all the time because of pain, and it became really dangerous because she'd hit her head. And it just, and it got her to the point, what had happened is she'd actually had rods, had a surgery, and the doctor who did the surgery was high on drugs at the time. And when he put the rods in, he didn't compensate for the fact that one of her legs was shorter than the other, and so the rods actually went diagonally instead of straight up her back. And so we were able to help her attend, but she had to have some kind of surgery, and she actually, every doctor said, no way, we're not going to do it, it will kill you or paralyze you, and she finally found a doctor who was able to do the surgery and put those rods in. And so she still has pain, she still has issues, but she's not where she was by any stretch of the imagination. And she actually got off every single painkiller. And the last one, she actually went up into the mountains with her father and a diffuser and oils. And her pain doctor said, I have never, in 30 whatever years of doing this, I have never seen someone get off this amount. He said, I give you permission because you have something else that's taking care of the pain, but I just want you to know that you'll never be able to. And so she actually went up in the mountains and got off of it. And anyway, so yeah, that's Emily's story. So there, how can you not find joy in that?
Yeah, let me just share with you a couple things about that experience that were pretty impactful to me. One of them was, I think it was 8 months after I had met her the first time. She walked up to me at a training and said, "You remember me?" And I almost fell over because she was walking and not in pain. And I also remember going over to her house because she was not in pain anymore, but she was still addicted to all these opioid painkillers, and she was still taking the painkillers, not for the pain, but because she couldn't stop taking them. And, for my story of why I got into this was when my best friend's little brother died from opioid painkillers addiction, and he couldn't get off of them. And so when I sat down with her and she pulled out all 8 of her different high power painkillers, and we were looking at that laid out on her counter, and I just told her, I'm like, look, if we don't get off of these will eventually kill you. And the fact that, that story is super dramatic, but it still speaks of the power of what it is that we're able to do, and that's brought me so much joy. And I know I'm taking too much time, but let me just share one more thing. I feel like those of us who have been in doTERRA for maybe over 2 years or something like that the big, the stories like that, or even the other things that might be small, is that I feel kind of like those of us who've been in doTERRA for a while, we are like the children of Israel in the Old Testament, and we just walked through the Red Sea. We walked through on dry ground through the Red Sea, and then we're living out in the wilderness for 40 years. And every day we go out, because we're in this massive desert, and we go out, and the Lord provides manna for us. And every day you walk out there and you just gather food that falls from heaven. and since it happens every day, it's no longer a miracle to us. And we start complaining about it and wishing that we had meat to eat instead of manna. And you know what I'm saying? You read some of those.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome.
And you read some of those stories in the Old Testament, you're like, what a bunch of spoiled brats. The thing is I am worse than them because I forgot to remember the joy I should feel every time I take care of something small that used to be something big in my life. And whether it's a cold sore or whether it's whatever it is. But the fact that anytime anything happens, we go, oh, okay, well, let's just take care of it. And then it does take care of it. And then in the past, I remember my first 2 years, every time it was like, oh my gosh, it's a miracle. People need to know about this, and now I've seen all these miracles, and the manna starts to just taste normal to me. And I take for granted that it's there every day. And then I complain that I have to go share it with people. And I'm just a spoiled, rotten brat. You know what I'm saying?
I love it. I love it because I need to hear that because I'm a brat myself.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like we need to get back to realizing the absolute miracle that the oil is. Because it is, and it's for, like, just yesterday, I was holding my daughter, and I looked down at her arm, and I'm like, where? And I saw a wart. I'm like, what's that? And she goes, I don't know. I'm like, how long have you had that? And she goes, I don't know. And I said, okay, well, let's just take care of it with this and this. And what, before this, what would I have said? Let's go burn it off? I mean, so, or just hopefully it goes away, or make some doctor's appointments. But instead I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's just do this and this. And my point is it's a miracle. It's an absolute miracle. And it's a miracle of empowerment and a miracle of these gifts of the earth.
I love it. Okay, so I'm going to open this. There's still people with their hand raised, and I'm going to go to you because you've been waiting patiently. But if anyone wants to add things about the joy of doing the business, and I think, you know what I think I'm going to do? I'm sorry, everyone. I just changed my mind. Because I think that it's easy to find the joy in the product, right? We might be a little spoiled, but we're finding joy. But I think that sometimes it can be we have a hard time finding the joy in building a business, but it is one of the most joyful things about this whole journey for those of us doing it. And since this is Mastermind, I'm assuming that all of you are doing it too. So I'm actually going to lower everyone's hand that is up. I'm sorry, but I'm going to do this. And then I want anyone, I'm just going to do this real quick. Let me finish lowering people's hands, okay? Before you raise your hand. Do not raise your hand. And then, okay, everyone's hand is lowered. Now is the time to talk about the joy of the business. Finding joy in building the business. You know, sometimes, please raise your hand if you have a story. And it probably will go along with the product anyway. So that's fine if you want to re-raise your hand. So I have developed incredible friendships and relationships. I have become a person I would have never become without this business. I've had to stretch myself way out of my comfort zone. I've had to manage my time like, holy cow, how can a person do that? But you figure it out. Sometimes it might be a mass confusion. But I am a stronger person because of this business. And my children are stronger children. Like, they have seen me go through it, and it has made them strong. And so I'm going to start with 815 is the area code, and then 6945. I'm going to unmute you, and I want to hear how you find joy in building your doTERRA business.
Hello.
Are you there? I unmuted you. Hi.
Hi, my name's Petrea Meyer, and this is my first time on the Mastermind talking. But, you know, I've had a really thank you. Welcome. Thank you. I'm really excited about the business, and the joy in the business is just growing. I'm growing and growing. I started about 14 months ago, and this last yesterday, you know, was a big push, and I was going for a really big rank, which, well, big to me. I was going for silver, and, you know, the excitement of everything, and you're going on, and you're doing all this stuff, and it gets busy, and it gets crazy, and you think you're going to lose your mind, and, like, you push on, and that personal growth is awesome. I can't even believe I'm doing this. I can't believe I'm talking on this call. But the joy in the business is I started with my own personal dream, and I just wanted to be free of pain. And that was like a little dream. And then my next dream was, well, I want to take care of more of our healthcare needs in my house. And then I was like, well, I want to help other people do this too. And it just naturally became the business because why wouldn't you love doing what we do? We have one of the best jobs in the world because we get to help people have their dreams come true, whether those dreams are a dream of a problem solved or a dream of a financial problem solved, being able to earn money and earn these oils for free. I mean, that is huge without having, you know, the ability to do the business and earn my oils for free, I probably wouldn't get to use like a quarter of the products that I use. And now I get to use the vitamins and all the supplements, and I'm starting to cleanse on February 15th. And I mean, it's just amazing that my business has given me so many more dreams, and my dreams are constantly growing. And with that, I see other people's dreams, and I'm helping them with their dreams, and it's growing. And it's just this cycle of the most beautiful thing. It's like a Disney World dream moment, just being able to be in that sparkling magic. And I am surrounded by the best people in the world. I mean, some of you are like, oh, I like my coworkers. No, my coworkers are the cream of the crop, the tip of the top, the best of the best, and everything about them just makes me smile and light up. And if I can do this business with those type of people, my dreams are coming true. I didn't meet my rank yesterday. I fell a little short. That's okay. I am doing my dream. My dream is now, and every step of it just grows. And I'm just so thankful. I'm so thankful.
Oh, wow.
Holy crap.
Awesome.
I want to be on her team. Can I be on her team? Like the most positive person in the world.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for being part of our pep talk. Woo! Okay.
Well, thank you.
doTERRA! doTERRA! Okay. Thank you. Okay, now I'm going to go to, I have 208 ending 6224. I'm going to unmute you. Your hand keeps coming up. Okay, here we go. So welcome. Who's this?
My name's Lachelle.
Lachelle. Cool. I had a roommate named Lachelle. What college did you go to? Just kidding. Don't sound like her. Idaho?
No.
Okay, never mind. You're not her. Okay.
No.
All right, Lachelle. Tell me all about it. How do you find joy in the business?
So I'm actually relatively new to the business. I've only been doing it for about 3 months now. And it's just, part of it is just how it all fell into place. A year ago, oh gosh, I was just in such a different place. About a year and a half ago, my oldest son almost drowned and had to be life-flighted to Primary Children's Hospital. Then I had 2 other of my kids in the PICU last winter, one for RSV and one for asthma related to the RSV he had had earlier. And I was struggling with some very severe depression and anxiety. And then I met, but then I met
I'm crying with you, Lachelle.
But then I met Molly and Janet. And to be able to work with them and to be able to work with the oils on an emotional level has literally changed my life. And that's why I decided to do the business. And it's been so, I'm not very far. I have all these big dreams and I will get there. But I'm just kind of at the beginning of it. And I've already learned to do so many things that I wouldn't have done a year ago. I have learned so much more about my worth as a person, that I have these capabilities to reach out to other people. And just the other day I did have someone reach out and they wanted some help with knowing some oils for some emotional issues, and I was able to kind of do what Molly and Jenna do and be like, okay, you need these oils and this is where you need to put them. And I love that I'm getting to that space where I can be able to share my gifts with other people and be able to help them come out of this really dark space, because I've been there in that dark space and it's so hard to even realize that you have potential when you're in that dark space. And so I had been using doTERRA for a few years before this, But it wasn't until I learned about the emotional side and like how much that changed my reality and really got to figure out how much it's changed my kids' lives. Like we haven't been to the doctor once this winter, which is a big deal for us because I have one with asthma and other issues, and just like it literally has like changed our family and my life. And even my husband commented the other day, he's like, it's just easier for you to be happier. And he can just tell that I've changed, and I am just so grateful for being able to be pushed to be bigger and better and to reach my potential and to see what value that I have and that I can contribute to this whole awesomeness. So anyway.
Oh, thank you so much. That was amazing. You're as cool as my roommate, Lachelle, just so you know. It's not a very common name. You're the only other person I met with it. That's why I said that. But yeah, very awesome. Well, that's amazing. I love your story. Just absolutely inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing. We're going to go to Emma Lou. I love that name, by the way, Emma Lou. It just makes me happy. So, because it reminds me of farming and country life. Okay, Emma Lou, honored to talk with you.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great.
Oh, I'm so glad. I have been so touched by all of the stories today. I'm so grateful that everyone could get on and share those stories. I really wanted to share how doTERRA, also sharing the business, has brought joy into my life and my family's. If it wasn't for doing the business side, I don't think that I would be, I share them with people around me, but kind of having the intention of doing the business has helped me a lot. And recently we just were like, okay, we really got to take this serious. This is what we're doing, that commitment. And so I was praying, and I'm just like, Heavenly Father, I need to be put in the path of those people that are looking and that are open and that need a change, instead of me pushing it on people, because I just felt like I was coming from a different place. And I had a prompting to go see my aunt and uncle, and I acted on it, and I was really scared to, because I just didn't know how they would receive me. I've done other businesses before, and they're not really the open type. But I went with the Spirit, and I felt to do so, and I got to my aunt's house, and I had my oils with me, and I had my little scanner, and I said, I feel strongly to come and see you, because I didn't have a way to call her before. I said, I have a strong feeling just to come and see you. And come to find out, she had just been diagnosed with cancer, and they were looking for something. And they were open, and they were interested, and they were putting the oils on, and it was awesome. And the other part of that miracle is my cousin, who I grew up with, we were the same age, and we just were best friends growing up, and her life took a different path, and she had just been in and out of drug rehabs. And part of my passion is helping people naturally to get off of their pain medicines, like you guys had talked about earlier. I hadn't seen her for years. I was worried she was on the street somewhere, and I ended up getting to see her that same day, because she had came to visit my aunt and uncle, and I shared the oils with her, and she was crying. She was happy, and my aunt was like, I haven't seen her happy like that. And just one thing after the other that day of running into people. I talked to 9 people that day, did 9 different scans, and it was just one person after the other that was in my path to share the oils with. And last night I did a call or a class with a lady, and after the class she starts crying, and I'm just like, what's the matter? She's like, you remind me of my aunt, and she was about your same age, and she had kids, and she homeschools and was into the oils, and she just hugged me and started crying. She's like, she just passed away in December, And I've been having this grief and this sadness and not knowing how to get over it. And I just feel like this is being in the right place at the right time. And I'm really humbled to be a messenger. That's what I feel this business is. And grateful that it can bless so many people. So if we didn't have the business, I would probably share it, but I wouldn't be, praying for who I could share the business with or the opportunity and products. So I love it. Thank you for letting me share.
I'm so grateful you did. Thank you so much, Emily. That's a really cool name. That makes me think of the country. All right. I'm going to go to Angie Archibald. Now, unmute you real quick and hear Angie. How are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
Doing well.
How come my name doesn't remind you of something really cool or like some old roommate?
Angie. You know what it makes me think of? It makes me think of how you always make me feel so good when I'm around you, because you're the Angie Archibald who's always so nice.
Oh, okay. Well, that works.
I'm sorry.
I was loving your commentary on everybody's names.
Well, I only made it on two. Lachelle, because I had a roommate, never heard that name before. And Emmalou, you have to comment on the name of Emmalou, okay? That's all there is to it.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, so I actually feel kind of done with my comments because these last two were really deep and awesome, and I'm really glad that they shared. And I feel like there's a lot of people sharing that are somewhat new to the business, and I just love feeling that excitement that they are realizing in their businesses are getting traction. From my perspective right now is, sorry?
Oh, I said amen to that. I love new business builders too. It makes me excited.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it just renews so much for me. But my thought when you asked what has been the blessing or what's been the joy in the business, I always cry to my team about, I think the reason I'm supposed to do the business is because of my interactions that I have with them and how much that fills me up. So I automatically threw that thought to the side, like, well, I always say that, so what else could I say? And the thought that came to my mind was all the personal development and all the experience that I've gone through to get to where I am. And I'm just a gold. I'm almost platinum. But it's been 3.5 years of doing doTERRA consistently. And in the beginning, in fact, for most of it, my husband has not been supportive, or he's been actually asking me to stop at certain times, and it's been really hard. But I've always felt impressed that this was actually something that God wanted me to do, and I couldn't stop for whatever reason. So then we get to the point where my husband gets stressed out with his job and his leadership struggles at work, and I'm in a place where I can give him like advice on leadership and on how to inspire people instead of forcing people to do things because they have to. I have all of this time in personal development books and mentoring calls that I've done with my team and figuring out ways to lift people up and inspire them to action that I can lend to him, who is the major breadwinner and does very well. He's very professional, and because I've grown over here doing doTERRA. And after these conversations that we have, I just sit by myself and I think, oh my goodness, is this why? Is this one of the reasons why Heavenly Father wanted me to do doTERRA? Because he was going to need me in his career to be here with this kind of advice that I would have never had if I wasn't building this doTERRA business all along the way. And as he's planning to break out on his own and start his own business, 3 years ago I would have been terrified of that idea. And now I'm just his biggest cheerleader because I know that we can do it. I know what it's like to have your own business. Like I have one, right? And I can advise him from my experience over here as the lady who was a stay-at-home mom who could have had a career but chose to stay home, and then all of a sudden ended up doing doTERRA even though she didn't want to. And I can give him this advice on how to find the right people to work with, how to define his company culture, how to recruit the right kinds of people and how to vet them and how they have to prove to him through action what they intend to do with their lives in order to come onto his team that he wants to build, completely unrelated to doTERRA. But here I am as this intimate advisor to my husband, and he really didn't want me to do it in the first place. So that has been a blessing that I would have never imagined to come to our family, to see him respecting me in that way, that I never thought I would fulfill that role. So
awesome. That is such a very original share. You're worried about being redundant, but I think that's very original and very cool for all of us to hear. I love it. Okay. My next,
hey,
it looks
Jacqueline?
like we're going to have, yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, this is Courtney. So I'm sitting here thinking about, probably the most extreme joy that I've ever felt in building my business. And there's a couple different times I think of, but I remember one time in particular, I was, I think Premier or Elite at the time, and I remember getting a $358 paycheck. And I remember being so beside myself that I just got $358 from doTERRA, and the difference that was making in my life at that time, it was huge. And it affected me so much that I actually sent a text to my friend and enroller, Seth Resume, and I said, hey, I just got my paycheck, and it was this much. And just went on to thank him for sharing doTERRA with me because of the difference that $358 has made to me, And there are times in my life when I got a paycheck, so maybe it was $300 in doTERRA, maybe it was $2,000 in doTERRA, maybe it was whatever in doTERRA. But there are certain times that I've gotten my paycheck from doTERRA that I am in complete awe for this company and for the life that I've been able to have because of doing the business with doTERRA. And what I've noticed is that I start to get those text messages from people on my team now saying, thank you for helping me. I just got my paycheck and it was X amount of dollars, And there's a lot of joy that comes from that, and knowing that the place where I was at financially before starting doTERRA was so incredibly painful that I know where these people are coming from when they text me and thank me that they just got a couple $100 from doTERRA, right? And that brings me so much joy. I mean, I love the products, don't get me wrong, but there is a lot of joy and healing that comes from taking someone from financial destruction to a life, to actually living, because of the blessings that the financial part of doTERRA brings to them. Just as important as there is from taking someone from a state of being unhealthy to healthy using the products. And I almost hated to bring this up because I'm the only one talking money here, but gosh dang, I just had to, because the reality is it's just that is important. There are just as many miracles that happen financially in people's lives and how their lives are changing due to that blessing as there is the products being in their life. And that brings me a ton of joy knowing I just pulled someone out of hell, because I've been there with them and I know what that's like.
I love it. That's huge. We have to talk about that. We have to address that. And we've kind of hinted at it because, hey, look at all the great products we can use. But there's something about, I know I have a daughter with learning challenges, and we've been able to do all kinds of therapy and things to help her that we could have never afforded otherwise. And that has nothing to do with doTERRA products, really, although, of course, I use those on her. But that really is amazing, the blessing it is financially. So I have a person I'm going to unmute. I'm so sorry that I couldn't get to everyone. There are so many people who've been wanting to share the joy. Melissa Guthrie, I want you to end the call. Melissa Guthrie, take us home. End the call for me on a high note. You're an athlete.
Well, thank you. I will do my best. Gosh, I just want to thank, again, everyone who's already shared, because it's been a very inspiring and heart-touching call. And sorry that I'm getting emotional. I think about, there's much like Seth was talking about, where we get in sometimes that mode of, the spoiled brat, not being grateful for what we have and the many blessings that we have. I've gone through bouts of like burnout in my business where it just felt like there was no joy and happiness in it at all. And so I've had to at times really get refocused on even some of just the little tiny daily joys that can come into business. But when I really stop and think about it, there's been amazing joy that has come into my life because of the business side of it. And the first was being able to pull myself out of what I considered complete destitution, where I was basically homeless. I didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. I couldn't put gas in my car to drive it. I couldn't drive it because I couldn't pay to register it. I was living on my mom's couch. I was on welfare. Like, it was bad. And now I'm at a place where money's no longer an issue. And it's such a blessing. And like Courtney said, there's so much joy that comes from just that peace of knowing that you are okay financially and can now go and serve beyond to be able to bless the lives of others. There's nothing that gives me greater joy than to be able to give of the means that I have, because I know what it's like to not have the necessities of life. And, you know, I think about the things I'm able to give and do, the charities that I can donate to, and right now I'm helping to put together a special retreat for the young women, the youth in my church that are ages 14 to 18. And the young men, there happens to be a gentleman at church that's very wealthy, and he works with the young men, and he's able to take them on these most amazing trips because he funds a lot of it himself. And the girls have talked about how they feel like they're not loved as much, or that they're not as special because they don't get to go do all these amazing things that the boys do. And because I have the financial means, I get to put together a absolutely amazing 4-day retreat for these girls where I will be just showering them with all sorts of amazing experiences. And we're starting, it's a 4-month thing, and it's starting tonight, and it's going to go through the beginning of June. And I'm not worried about where the money is going to come from. The church doesn't have to pay for this project. I get to because I have the financial resources, and it brings me so much joy. And I think about that in people's lives that are in my team, where I've had team members who've been able to bring their husbands home, where their husbands can now be an active part of their children's lives, and they don't have to commute 2 hours both ways to work anymore and not have a life. I've seen team members be able to buy new homes and to get new cars, and just things that, to me, it just brings me such joy to be able to know that because of this business, we can help people achieve any goal and dream that they have for themselves. And so there's daily joys, there's minute-by-minute joys, and there's lifelong joys that come in this business. And I would not do any other thing in my life than build doTERRA.
Wow. You ended it perfectly. Thank you so much. That was awesome. It's been really great to be with all of you and sharing the joy of doTERRA, and I hope that everyone can leave this call just ready to share and to find joy in that. And have a great day.